matters are fast-moving.
Unlike other big rallies,
Bit earlier at about 7 a.m., a group from the Coast Guard.
Welcome to hashtag PHVote 2013.
Today on Rappler, another 7.8 tremor hits Chile a day after the deadly 8.2 magnitude quake. China asks the Philippines to reconsider bilateral negotiations, saying friends avoid lawsuits. And a soldier goes on a killing rampage and kills 3 people at U.S. military base Fort Hood. Hello, I'm Maria Ressa. Welcome to Rappler, your social news network. Another powerful 7.8 magnitude earthquake shakes Chile late Wednesday, that's Thursday morning in Manila. This comes one day after a deadly 8.2 quake kills at least 6 people. Officials issue new tsunami warnings, forcing thousands to flee to higher ground. There were no immediate reports of fatalities or major damage from the new quake. Tuesday's 8.2 magnitude quake triggers a minor tsunami in northern Japan, thousands of kilometers across the Pacific. The Japan Meteorological Agency says waves of 20 centimeters or 8 inches were monitored in the city of Kuji early Thursday. The agency warns higher waves may hit Japan later. In 1960, a 9.5 magnitude earthquake in Chile sent a tsunami across the Pacific that killed more than 140 people in Japan. China asks the Philippines to reconsider bilateral negotiations in resolving the territorial row over islands in the South China Sea or the West Philippine Sea. It adds, it's Chinese tradition to avoid lawsuits, especially with long-standing friends like the Philippines. In a statement, Chinese Embassy in Manila spokesperson Zhang Hua calls the Philippines, quote, a good neighbor and a friend. He explains why Beijing rejects the case Manila filed before an international court over territories in the South China Sea. China prefers to resolve territorial disputes through bilateral negotiations. Zhang says it's part of Chinese culture to avoid a lawsuit. He adds, the Philippine people also value friendship and good faith. We see every reason for both sides to sit down and resolve problems through negotiations instead of taking the issue to court. Zhang also urges Manila to, quote, correct its mistake and return to what it calls the right track of bilateral talks. Military sources say the Abu Sayyaf group may be responsible for the kidnapping of a Filipino hotel worker and a Chinese tourist in Malaysia. Sources say the 6 armed men were former members of the Moro National Liberation Front faction of Nur Miswari, but they had since joined the Abu Sayyaf. On Wednesday night, the suspects kidnapped a 29-year-old Chinese tourist and a 40-year-old Filipino hotel receptionist at the Singamata Reef Resort in Semporna, Malaysia. Initial police reports say the 2 women may have been brought to Bacong Island in Tawi-Tawi in the southern Philippines. A Manila court freezes the properties of the family of Janet Napoles and other suspects in the pork barrel scandal. Properties suspected of being acquired illegally from the scam are covered by this asset preservation order. The pork barrel scam implicates lawmakers who are accused of channeling their funds to fake NGOs. A similar order was issued in February but was effective only for 20 days. The court also denies the appeal of pork scam whistleblower Ben-Hur Luy to be exempted from the assets freeze. Luy earlier said his status as state witness exempts his assets. With presidential elections 2 years away, political kingmaker Senator Serge Osmeña talks about possible scenarios for 2016. He says legislators who get kickbacks from their pork barrel will be, quote, less motivated to run again.
To those who used to cheat on their PDAF, because not all lawmakers cheat on their PDAF, to those who used to cheat on their PDAF, they might have less motivation to be running for re-election or getting their relatives to run for Congress. Now, there will be no more discretion on the lawmaker after the budget is approved.
Osmeña says the pork barrel scam hit the integrity of the Senate and regaining public trust will be a challenge.
It's been a terrible blow to the reputation of the Senate. We're supposed to be an institution that is, like Caesar's wife, above suspicion. Of course, it's never been that way throughout history, but still the level of respect has fallen by several degrees, several dozens of degrees.
Osmeña shares who he thinks might become possible frontliners should they decide to run for the 2016 presidential elections.
You've got a marvelous candidate there in Grace Poe. Of course, Bam Aquino should also be considered, although most people say that he's too young. But he's a very bright fellow, and you'll never know. He might be able to make up a lot of ground in 2 years. So let's see. Then you've also got the Nacionalista Party, which can come forth with the likes of Alan Peter Cayetano or even his sister Pia. Of course, there's Chis Escudero, who was being considered for the presidency as early as 2009. Now, why not? He has heart now.
Yes, lots of heart. For our social media post of the day, President Benigno Aquino poses with the Ateneo women's volleyball team for a selfie. The photo makes the rounds online after the University Athletic Association of the Philippines women's volleyball champs dropped by for a courtesy call in Malacanang. U.S. Space Agency NASA cuts ties with Russia, except for cooperation on board the International Space Station, or ISS. In a memo, NASA says it made the decision because of Russia's ongoing violation of Ukraine's sovereignty and territorial integrity. The agency also bans NASA employees from traveling to Russia and Russian visits to NASA facilities. But the agency says it will continue to work with the Russian Federal Space Agency to maintain the operation of the ISS. Russia's Soyuz spacecraft is the only means of transport to the ISS for the world's astronauts. A soldier kills at least 3 people and injures 16 before turning the gun on himself at Fort Hood, the U.S. military base devastated by a deadly 2009 rampage. CNN cites an official saying the soldier, who served in Iraq, reportedly had mental issues. Officials say there's no known motive for the shooting. In November 2009, Major Nidal Hassan opened fire at a medical facility in the sprawling Fort Hood base, killing 12 and wounding more than a dozen others. A new study suggests the secret to healthy weight could be as simple as seeing the morning light. Researchers from Northwestern University say morning sunshine may have, quote, an influence on body mass, regardless of food intake and exercise. Light synchronizes the internal body clock that regulates rhythms, which in turn also regulates energy balance. The study's authors suggest those who want to lose a little weight should get more bright light between 8 a.m. and noon. As little as 20 to 30 minutes could be enough to affect the body mass index. Let's now look at Rappler's Wrap for today, a list of the 10 most important events around the world you shouldn't miss. At number 6, in a unanimous verdict, Australia's highest court recognizes the existence of a third non-specific gender that is neither male nor female. The decision ends a long legal battle by sexual equality campaigner Nori to overturn a law saying gender is a binary concept involving only men or women. The court rules not everyone should be forced to identify as a man or woman, adding some people could describe themselves as gender neutral. At number 8, medical experts say efforts to send humans to Mars poses health risks beyond the limits of what space agency NASA currently allows. A report by the Institute of Medicine says health risks from short-term missions in space include nausea, weakness, and blurred vision. Long-term risks include radiation-induced cancer and the loss of bone mass. At number 9, after annexing Ukraine's Crimea region, Russian President Vladimir Putin turns to domestic problems, finalizing his divorce from his low-key wife. Russia's state-owned news agency breaks the story late Tuesday, but the BBC says the Kremlin may have managed the story because local media ignored it. None of the major TV channels reported the formal breakup of Russia's most famous couple. In June, the two announced they were breaking up. There were rumors Putin planned to marry former Olympic gymnast Alina Kabayeva, one of the torchbearers at the opening of the Sochi Winter Olympics last February. And at number 10, It's been just over 2 years since our site went live and 7 months since we dropped beta. On Wednesday, Rappler rolled out a new and improved design that looks better, loads faster, and makes it easier to discover new stories. This new site was redesigned from the ground up and is optimized to provide the best Rappler experience, whether you're on a desktop, tablet, or smartphone. In Rappler 3.0, for example, we've made the mood meter smarter and more intuitive. For the full top 10, visit Rappler.com's The Wrap. As we've told you, every story on Rappler has a mood meter which gives you 8 emotions to choose from. You click how you feel and your vote comes down to the mood navigator in the middle of the front page. That crowdsources the mood of the day. It also gives you the top 10 stories that have affected our readers and viewers the most emotionally. If you take a look at Rappler 3.0's new mood navigator, this aggregates all of the votes and gives you, when you're on the top 10, it gives you the top 10 stories that have gotten the most number of votes on the mood meters, and it also chooses the mood of the day. So if we take a look today, we've got China really dominating. Fear for Philippine troops facing China. You have, interestingly, 8% annoyed, 8% inspired, and a whopping 78% angry. That red mirrors the story that's gotten the most number of votes, one of our top stories today. China to Philippines, friends avoid lawsuits, the statement of Chinese embassy spokesman. You see here, 10% amused, 13% annoyed, and a whopping 68% angry. That red bringing out the mood of the day. Today, most people are angry. But wait, hold on. One of the things you can check out in Rappler 3.0 is this list of moods at the bottom. Now take a look. If you want to be happy, you can click just the mood of happy and it'll load and you'll see the top 10 stories with the most number of happy votes, and you see the predominant green. But interestingly enough, a story, the Bangsamoro deal illegal creates sub-state, you still see a larger 49% angry, but this 30% happy is enough to push the story into the top 10 of happy stories. So go ahead and explore. If you're angry and want to get even angrier, take a look at the stories that are angry. That is Rappler's newscast for today, Thursday, April 3, 2014. Visit Rappler.com and watch our newscast Monday to Friday. Tell us how you feel on our mood meter and help us crowdsource the mood of the day. I'm Maria Ressa. As we say at Rappler, tomorrow begins today.